So, Emmy, why don't you just start by telling us who you are, what you have going on, and the excitement that you have around it?
Yeah. So I'm Emmy, and I started an upcycled protein bar,
Huh?
and that consumes most of my life right now.
Yeah.
And how I started that was it started back in 2020. I was playing professional volleyball, and I was supposed to go play professional volleyball again. Obviously, the COVID lockdown affected that. I moved in with my sister, who was a teacher during the lockdown. And the biggest thing she struggled with wasn't the online teaching, it was making sure her kids had meals. She teaches for a district where a majority of the kids are on a school funded lunch, and without that lunch during the school day, their meal was taken away. And so I watched her set up food drives. I watched her drive around baby formula. I watched her really just trying to organize with other teachers on how they were going to make sure their kids stayed taken care of. And until I saw that close up, I had no idea what a huge issue the food crisis still was in the US and food insecurity.
Right.
So much time, like most people, because it was COVID. So I started doing a bunch of research, and I learned about how relevant the food crisis still is and the hunger crisis still is. And I didn't understand how, because we live in this country with so much abundance. And that's when I learned about food waste, and that we actually do have the resources to feed everybody, but we're wasting over 40% of the food we produce. And if we reduce the amount of waste we have, we can close the gap between food we have and food we need. That is really when I became aware of that issue and became aware of the solution of reducing food waste. That's when it hit me that I wanted to be a part of educating people in the same way that this circumstance did. I started brainstorming, and I thought, what better way to do that than a product, and a product that is extremely mission based, a product that tells that story. And I had so many just terrible protein bars,
Mm-hmm.
as you do as a professional athlete, and honestly just as an everyday person too.
Yeah.
And I thought, I could do way better than this.
Yeah.
There's got to be a way to make a better protein bar with better ingredients, better texture. And that's how I decided on a protein bar, Act Bar. And that's how we decided to go the route of using upcycled ingredients to prevent waste, of having the donation aspect of Act Bar, which was originally LA Food Bank, but now is Brighter Bites. So that's kind of the full story front to back on
Yeah.
how I am where I am now.
That's awesome. Okay, so I have a couple of questions. So this checks a few different big boxes. Number one, from what I understand, and I just stalked your Instagram, you have a bunch of stats on there on how much water waste there is and how much food waste we have, but then even saving energy because we're not having to produce more. So do you feel like that affects, like environmentally, do you feel like that is something that would affect more than just water waste? It seems like a bigger picture to me when I was reading up on it.
Absolutely. It is so big picture. It's almost hard to, I think that's something I'm learning on social media, is how do I explain chunks of this, because truly it affects so many things. So if you even take, let's say, just the upcycled grains, if we're just going to talk about that, which is the base of Act Bars, you've got the water waste, but then you've also got the waste of the actual grains itself, which could be used in the food. And then you have the carbon emissions that will occur because that grain goes into a landfill. So carbon emissions, because of food waste, are the third highest contributor. So
the food goes into the landfill, and the way it decomposes, it causes greenhouse.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying? Okay.
So it's so much, the impact of reducing food waste is so much bigger than even just closing the hunger gap.
Right.
Although obviously we've got this mission that's feed more, waste less. The environmental effects are so massive.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, if that answers
Yeah,
your
that
question.
answers that question. So I have like a crazy brain. It's always thinking. It's never been diagnosed because I was raised in the 80s, but there's something going on up there. So I met with your mom for lunch and she brought me bars, and I've had your bars before. I think they're amazing and delicious. All my kids love them. We've been talking about it. I've been able to kind of read some of the stuff in the back. I go to Costco once a week. I have 5 kids. So I go to Costco once a week and load up the grocery cart. But every time I'm going around Costco, and I've texted you this before because I know you're my friend, I just see this product in mass production with massive amounts of people being able to throw that in their cart every week. That being said, I think that that's awesome. I think you're going to be very wealthy one day. But I think that even the bigger thing that's going to happen is you are going to put pressure on General Mills and Budweiser or Anheuser-Busch or whoever, these bigger companies, because I don't even think your everyday mom or dad or human understands those big boxes that your product would check. And I know there are other companies, very few, that do upcycling, you said, but I feel like the more that people know and find that is something that they want to throw into their organic, like we want organic, we want it to be sustainable because now we understand it's gross to eat fish, that it's not sustainably fit, it's not good for us. I feel like this is going to fall under that same thing, and you're just like right on the cusp of a big awareness that we're going to have even globally, that this is such a big deal.
Yeah, and I agree, and I really believe in that. It's awesome to hear that you see that vision for it too, because I truly believe this is a product that can disrupt what's happening right now in so many ways, in the way that we produce food and we use the resources we have, but also in the accountability that brands should take on for social responsibility and community involvement. And there's no reason why, if we as this tiny brand are able to make these donations, be involved in the community, use an upcycled grain with, 100th of the resources that these huge players have.
Right.
There's no excuse. And I really believe we're going to see the biggest change in community involvement and waste reduction because it's on a bigger scale. Businesses and the companies that choose to take accountability versus the consumer. We can't put that amount of pressure on the everyday consumer. We've got to take accountability on our end because that's when the biggest impact is going to be made. So I'm excited you see that vision too. I truly think that hopefully this gets bigger, more and more consumers. This is just the expectation they have for where they're going to spend their dollars and brands they're going to invest in.
Do you feel like when we consume a product and we start to understand like, oh, I don't want that kind of tuna. I want this other kind of tuna that I can track because then I know what's going on with this tuna. Do you think at all that it has to do with consumers sort of starting to demand that? And so then these bigger players are like, oh, okay, we have to start coming up with this kind of product? Or do you think the accountability is going to come from these big players making changes in their products first?
I definitely think, it all does come down to money and making a profit. So I do think it is starting with consumers expecting that. And I think consumers expecting that, or maybe wanting that more than expecting that, because they're seeing these huge global issues we have. Statistically, Gen Z more than ever has the highest expectations of brand accountability when it comes down to sustainability, when it comes down to community involvement, with millennials being a close second. And I think that is kind of a reflection of where we are with social media and just the accessibility of information now.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're seeing, a pretty big ramp up of how many consumers are wanting that. I unfortunately don't think that big companies would just look at an issue and decide to change because it's the right thing to do. I
Yeah,
do think it's because consumers are hoping and expecting that they take part in that.
right. I just feel like there was a lot of products that weren't available on a mass market kind of a thing. I've been a mom for 23 years now. So the things that I can offer my 8-year-old are much different than I could have offered my 23-year-old.
Yeah.
Even as far as like peanut allergies, and now there's good substitutes for that kind of stuff. There's so many better options and we just keep getting better and better. So yeah, that it's exciting to know that this is the direction hopefully that we're going. And it is. I had never heard that statistic that we waste so much that if we use the stuff that we were wasting, we could actually feed everyone.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Is that in the US or is that the world?
That is in the US. I'm
The
not as
US. Okay.
familiar with the worldwide statistics, but that's the US statistics.
Yeah. Okay. So I saw on some of your Instagram that you're excited to get into Whole Foods and Sprouts. So
Mm-hmm.
what's the story with that?
Yep. So this year is really the year I am just going to publicly manifest everything.
Yeah.
And I wanted to kind of show that journey to our social media following of what it looks like to try to get into these, massive retailers.
Mm-hmm.
And for us, that would be kind of the first step in us becoming a national brand. That would be the two places we would want to be. And both of them have local programs, so we could kind of start small and grow into them. That's where we believe our consumer is. Right now, we're in a lot of like Independence, we're in Earth Bar, we're in Equinox, all of these things, more local grocery stores, which is great. But this is the year I hope that we really become a national brand, and I want our community on social media to be a part of it and see it, I guess.
Yeah. So what's the process of going through trying to do something like that? I saw you doing like making little lunch boxes and sending them out.
Yeah, I mean, you have to email, in our case, quite a few times. You have to email and email and email. I think before that, this sounds so obvious, but I believe a lot of CPGs miss out because of this. Is we put so much time and thought into the email we put together to be
Uh-huh.
very specific based off of what reports Whole Foods and Sprouts put out for what kind of products they're looking for. So
Right.
conveniently, they just put out articles. Both major retailers have put out articles on how they wanted upcycled products, which was very nice for us. And so, it's kind of holding them accountable to that of, okay, well, that's what we are. But yeah, send out a bunch of emails, put together some meetings, got the yes to send out samples, and then after that, it's just waiting. We know when the product resets are. We're hoping to find out sometime this month from both of them, but it's hard to say. It's kind of
Yeah.
on the timeline, so we'll see. But I was excited to be able to send out samples.
That's exciting. I mean, I know from doing just like the business roller coaster where it's like you feel like, you feel like you're making some progress and then you might hit like a little roadblock and then you have to do something different. It's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of work to start up something and get it
Yeah.
going. Did you ever read the book by the founder of Hint Water?
Mm-mm.
So I think she's a Bay Area girl. It's an expensive premium water, but the story behind it is so interesting because it's so incredible how much work you have to do to get something off the ground and to disrupt an industry and to change it.
Yeah, it definitely takes a day to day. I have to wake up and choose to tell myself every single day that this is a multi-million-dollar brand and we're so tiny, but we keep growing. And every single day, literally, I tell myself that because it is such an up and down. One day you're killing it, the next day
Yeah.
somebody didn't get the bar shipped out that they ordered or something like that. And that sounds like such a small thing, but when you work so hard and you're so proud of your product and you put so much time into it, like little errors like that, or product errors, or whatever it happens to be, it can like ruin your morale and your mental health if
Yeah.
you're not telling yourself this is a long game and I believe that it's going to be this. Like,
Yeah.
I just tell myself that. I think you have to with
Yeah,
every big goal. Yeah.
lots of life lessons in that, because I mean, it's a little tiny step every day. You know, they always say that about the gold miner who's like just like this close to that nugget of gold.
Yeah.
And he's like,
Yeah.
I want to stop. But you just have to keep going, Oh, I'm so excited about this product, not just to see you guys be like bazillionaires, but it's just to see us as a country start moving in this direction of being more responsible. Why didn't I know this? I'm 53. Why do I have to have it explained by you're 30, right? You just turned 30, a 30 something, you know? This is the stuff like we should be educated on this. We should know what's going on. We should know how we can do better. Another area, I have a really good friend who runs a high-end construction company, basically. So he goes in and guts people's houses and then like redoes it. I just went and saw that. I love homes. So I just went and saw this beautiful one with like views of this bay on all three sides of the house. And I'm blown away by how much waste we're allowed to like, oh, I don't like it anymore. It's got to go. Or even brand new buildings that have been built, but now that didn't work out. So it's a different lease. So that's going to get gutted. I wonder about like, where's all that waste going? And then we have to produce more stuff to put it there.
And that curiosity is so great and so important. And I think the more curious we can get and the more we can ask that question in every area, like you were saying, buildings being built or our clothing, I think there's just not that curiosity there, and not because anybody wants all this waste going to the landfill, but like you were saying, it's like, how do we not know about these things? It's because the consumer is not there producing. Like how are they supposed to know? So I think that's why the accountability needs to fall on these businesses, whether it's food production, whether it's clothing, which is a whole nother issue I could talk about for a long time. Building construction, all of that. I think it's so brilliant what you just said. Like, where does all of that go? That's where it has to start. That's a question we've got to ask in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So how did I know you're LA based, how did the fires affect you guys?
Well, it wasn't too bad. The biggest thing that happened to us was we were supposed to launch in some stores, and because those chains had some locations burn down, our launch was delayed quite a bit, which was because we did these production runs with the idea that we're going to be in these accounts. And so then to not be able to send this product we made was just, and again, we run pretty small production runs, so it's not the biggest deal. Our back's a little bit against the wall as far as we've got some product we need to sell via e-com now. But yeah, I would say we didn't lose any product. Where I live is fine, where my parents live is fine, but it did impact the retail location that we're going in, which was unfortunate. When I hear about people that own actual stores that burned down, I can't imagine.
No. I know. I was with a girlfriend from South Pasadena having lunch yesterday, and we were talking about not only do you lose your house, but like kids lose their friend group because all those people have to disperse and go find a rental somewhere else. They lost their libraries or, yogurt shops where they would hang out or whatever you would do. Not to mention all your things, everything. It's hard to comprehend how difficult and what a grand scale the whole thing is.
Yeah.
I'm glad you guys came out okay. Did we talk at all about like how you got affiliated with Brighter Bites?
Oh no, we haven't talked about that.
Okay.
But I'd love to. I'm so excited about it. Yeah, so we just partnered with Brighter Bites. Originally we partnered with LA Food Bank, which was great. But what I really, really like about Brighter Bites is now instead of our donation being meals, we donate fresh produce. And why that's important is when you look at marginalized communities, they're in what we consider food deserts. And by that, there's maybe only some gas stations, a lot of processed food, not a lot of actual fresh produce, nutrient-dense food. And what Brighter Bites does is they go into these marginalized communities, and specifically school districts and marginalized communities, and they pack up these huge 15-pound bags of fresh produce and then distribute them to the students. And some of these students have never seen what a squash is. They've never seen what what cauliflower is, these different vegetables, because there's such a lack of resources in those areas.
Yeah.
And so I felt donating our money there, I felt more in control and better knowing where our money was being spent.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just so excited to be a part of them and grow with them, because I believe what they're doing is not just putting a band-aid over it. They really understand the hunger crisis on a systematic level and what needs to change. You know, our money is not going to pay for a kid to have a Chewy bar and a bag of chips. It's going to be paying for them to have produce and have education on what the produce is. And yeah, so Brighter Bites now will donate a half pound of produce every time somebody buys a bar through that partnership.
Wow, that's crazy. That's amazing. That's so awesome that you. Do you ever
Yeah.
feel like some days you feel like you're like, oh, like you were saying, you have to like talk yourself into like this is a multi-billion-dollar company.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any like rituals or things you do to get yourself enthusiastic about all of this?
Every morning I journal and I write it down. Every single morning. Every single morning. If it's a really hard day, I write down why.
Yeah.
And like why I'm putting myself through this and why. Because I'm sure you know, as a business owner, it's not the easy path. It is the most rewarding in so many ways, I believe. But it's not the easy path. You're leaving comfort. You know, I had a comfortable job with like good money and healthcare and all those things, and you choose to do this thing, and yeah, so you just have to be a freaking, I mean, you know, like a fortress up here.
Yeah.
So I have to remind myself why on the really hard days, and if that doesn't work, then I call my mom. But
Yeah. I mean, and just looking at how far you've come, you know,
mm-hmm.
from it being something that you sketched out or thought about or got colored pencils and wrote what you thought it would be like. And now it's
Right.
like,
When we first met up, I didn't even have the product yet.
I know.
Isn't that crazy?
And now I'm eating it and I love it.
It's like, it's so crazy. And I remember when I was gonna launch it, and my mom reminded me that you lived here. And obviously, like, she talks about you all the time and how you're this badass businesswoman. And so it was just like so great to meet you and somebody that's achieved it and done it, and talk to you through like where I was at with it. And yeah, it's just crazy what has happened between now and then. It's exciting.
And you had your vision then. Like you came here, and I think Thomas and I got to visit with you for a bit, but you had a vision of what you wanted to do then. And that was the first time in all of my, I don't know, what was it, 49 years at that point that I've ever even heard the term upcycling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's still new. I mean, obviously, like now people are starting to seek it out, but it's even from like then, which was not that long ago, to now. So many more people knew what it is. Like now, when I explain, people kind of know. Before, people were like, "Are you putting trash in the bar? Like,
right?
What are you talking about?"
Yeah, it's crazy, and it is kind of changing that perception because I've explained it to a couple of people that have said that too. They're like, "Ew," and I'm like, "No, it's food that is still nutrient dense, but it's going to just be thrown in the trash. And then that causes greenhouse effects and it's more waste in the land." Mm-hmm. So I can't wait to watch your documentary. Serious. I think there's going to be a documentary with you in a sweatshirt. I think it's going to show your modeling stuff that you did. And didn't you work in a veterinarian's office?
I was a medical device consultant, so I would like go degrees. Yeah.
Yeah. So you've done a few things. You have a good story. I'm telling you, it'll be a good documentary. I'm going to start thinking of the name.
Okay.
And then what's your slogan? Future of fuel.
Yeah, future fueling.
Future of
or
fueling.
Eat more, waste less. We do both.
More, waste less.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Well, I'm really, really proud of you. Thank you for sharing your time and your story.
Thank you so much.